I'm pleased to say I'm joined once again by the ITV pundit and commentator Chris Mason. Thanks again for the time, Chris. How you doing?
Yeah, absolute pleasure, mate. Really good. Well, about as good as everyone else right now, but looking forward to coming out of lockdown life.
Fingers crossed for that. Well, there's only one place to start, and that is last night when we're talking Michael van Gerwen back in the winners' enclosure on TV for the first time in 8 months. What was your overall assessment on Michael's run to the title last night?
Yeah, I thought he was outstanding. There was the odd sign of fragility there, which we've seen in the last, I don't know, maybe 12 to 18 months, but he got it all right over the last few days. And in that final, pushed all the way, pushed hard by a very, very good Merv King, who, I mean, he averaged just under 100, didn't he? And Michael, 104.98 in the final. A tournament average of 102. Yeah, you couldn't really ask much more from him, really. It was really good to see. The game needs a very good version of Michael van Gerwen, because he's just so exciting to watch. And he's the one that's been making headlines, but for the past 12 months, making headlines for the wrong reasons, really, because he's not been winning.
We should give a mention to the runner-up. You mentioned him there, Mervyn King, 200-1 pre-tournament outsider, 20 years on from his first major final at the World Masters, still competing in these big finals. Beat Peter Wright in the semi-finals, of course, but just fell short again in that final hurdle. What do you think's missing for him to get that first big title in the PDC?
Same as missing for a lot of the other ones. Just a little bit of luck here and there, and something to drop right for him, or an inspirational shot. I mean, that 1-2-6 he took out was incredible. You couldn't ask any more from him. His finishing stats in the final: 10 out of 16, 62 and 62.5%. And I said he had 3 ton-plus finishes in the final. I mean, there was 7 in total, all the way down to the wire. When Michael goes out, he sat there on, I think he wanted 45, didn't he, or 47, I can't quite remember. He just gave it everything, and he was fabulous in that match against Dave Chisnall early doors when he averaged 105. So there's still plenty in the locker there for Merv. It seems going back to work has done him some good. He didn't. I'm not sure how it all got mixed up. It's basically boredom, and there was. Merv's very popular on the exhibition circuit. Well, that was taken out of the equation because of, obviously, with the lockdown and everything else, and the limitations of what pubs could do. So he decided to go back driving and delivering a few parcels just for something to do. And it seems to have, I don't know, maybe it's just refreshed him, because that's as well as I've seen Merv play for many a year. Every now and again he pops up with a decent performance, but consistently that was very, very good. And he was just, it's a bit unfortunate for him that he came up against a very, very good Michael van Gerwen. Anybody else that could have got to that final with that kind of performance, he might have had more of a shout against Gezi Price if he'd have got over the line against Michael in the other semi-final, but it wasn't to be. But he'll take so much from that. I mean, there were so many positives, and he'll be a dangerous floater in the World Championship.
Definitely. Well, for you guys on the ITV team, we've had recently the World Series, the European Championship. You were based in the studio away from the venue. So what was it like being back in the venue at the weekend? Of course, still behind closed doors with no fans, but being back in the venue, was that good for you guys?
Yeah, it was nice. A few people. We were in a completely separate bubble to the PDC, so I didn't get a chance to see any of the players. Yeah, so our team was kept, the production side of everything was kept totally separate to everything else. So, yeah, new experience for me. It's never going to be the same without the fans, but we just tried to make the best job we could out of it. The same with what Sky done. The way they produced it was outstanding. And at times, if you do watch it on the TV, you just get carried away with the match. You forget that there's no fans there. But I can't wait until they're back, and hopefully everything crossed. The World Championship will see potentially 1,000 fans in there, which will be not only great for a TV sport, but great for the players, and of course great for PDC. Huge financial hit this year, but I know a lot of people have said it, but they've done an outstanding outstanding job. All of the team, from Matchroom all the way through to PDC, and of course Sky and ITV, to continue to bring the fans the action the best way we could.
And since we last spoke, I think it was just before the World Series finals, we've had a few new first-time winners in PDC televised events, and one I want to touch on is Jose de Souza. What have you made of his rise?
Yeah, he's a wonderful player. He's got a great mentality for the sport. He's as gracious in victory as he is in defeat. He's a huge scorer. I can actually remember him qualifying for the Worlds a couple of years ago and playing, sure it was Michael Barnard in the first round or the prelim game. It was an absolute stinker. And then, I don't know, maybe 12, 18 months ago, he started to pop some big averages in every now and again. And then I just sort of followed his progress, and wow, what a 12 months he's had. And he looks like he can improve. I mean, 46, comes from a soft tip background, but has no problem getting over the line. That's what I like about him. He's carrying no luggage, no battle scars, because he doesn't have any bad memories. And you can compare that with Michael Smith. If you said to me, obviously Michael Smith's a superior player to Jose, but of course he doesn't carry the scars that Michael does. He's dangerous in every event he plays in. He's a wonderful player. Like I said, I love his attitude. Counting can be a little bit strange at times, but that's obviously going to improve the more he plays.
2 weeks tomorrow until the World Championship will get underway. It's confirmed it's going to be at Ali Pali. When we're speaking, you mentioned it there, we're not quite sure if we're going to get fans in. Barry Hearn hoping to have 1,000 for each session. Having it still at Ali Pali is obviously massive, but how much will the event be boosted if we are allowed to get the fans back in?
Yeah, I mean, the players are crying out for it. I think we heard from a lot of the guys over this weekend and previous weekends where we've had the opportunity to hear them interviewed, how hard a few of them are finding it. It's very sterile, literally, and a lot of players rely on that to motivate them. I mean, it's been good for a few players including Merv King, who does get a fair bit of abuse from the fans, and then you've got someone like Dimitri, who likes to take his time and regroup when he tends to do that when there's a crowd in. They get on his back. But the players are absolutely, crying out for it, and so are the TV companies, the broadcasters, and of course the PDC. It's just not the same without the crowd, because they've been such an integral part of why the sport is now so popular.
And if we do get that limited crowd, it's going to look and sound very different compared to what it usually is at Ali Pali. Do you think that quieter, perhaps less party-like atmosphere could play a factor in what we see unfold?
Well, I reckon obviously it's going to be certain sort of restrictions in place, so I presume they won't be as well lubricated. But I think what they'll do, they may rejig the venue and actually try and make the venue smaller, so it's full, if you know what I mean. They'll reduce that capacity so it meets all the guidelines, of course. So hopefully the 1,000 won't look lost in there, because it's a big venue. I think it holds somewhere around 3,700. So if they kept it as it is or as it was, I think the crowd would look a little lost in there. So I'm sure they will. You know what the PDC is like. They're innovative. They'll come up with something to make it look not look so the fans are lost. And listen, 1,000 people, they'll make more than enough noise. I mean, you only got to look back at Lakeside. That only used to hold just over 1,000, and so did the Circus Tavern. So I think it's just about how they place the fans in the venue and how they make it look. But it'll be incredible, and I mean, it's going to be amazing. I mean, there's so many first-time or debutants that are competing this year. They're going to. I mean, it's not going to be as good, of course, but they're still going to have a great time. People like Claire Macker, Jason Lowe, pretty sure Scott Waite, his debut there. Obviously, loads of experience. What I'm looking forward to, David Evans. I've seen a lot of him while I did the modus event. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. But yeah, it's a great field. I think the field was, well, we're speaking today on Monday. The field was completed today, wasn't it, with the final remaining qualifiers? We had Neil Zonneveld come through. We've seen, of course, over the weekend, and Karel Stefacek. They came through the rest of the world qualifiers. And young Kieran Sheehan, he beat Joe Burton to come through. Lovely to see Jamie Lewis back at the Worlds. He's had his own issues away from the hockey, so that's great news. Matthew Edgar, he's back, and I think that means he retains his card. And Nick Kenny, there's another one making his debut. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be amazing, because it's going to be obviously our first one back. Fingers crossed that we do get a crowd, and it's just so many players in such good form. You know, Gerwyn Price, right? He did have that iffy game against Merv King in the Players Championship. I'm sure he'll have that sorted out. Gezi Price, Jose, expect Durant to come back playing a lot better than he's been now that it appears that he's pretty much recovered. It's going to be a fabulous event. I mean, it always is anyway, but this year it's going to be extra special.
What's it like then as a player? Obviously, we're 2 weeks away from it now getting underway, but you've played in countless World Championships, both sides of the code, the BDO, the PDC. What's it like these few weeks leading up to the event? This is the biggest tournament that you guys play, and what's it like getting ready for that, and the sense of expectation, anticipation playing in this tournament?
Yeah, well, they're fortunate that they've had a lot of dark, so any issues would have been, well, hopefully resolved by now. Their practice will be up to speed. Their stamina will be up to speed. You know, it's a bit like, I suppose it's pretty much, you know, like a boxer. They go away into camp, and the sort of the last week or two they wind it down a little bit, and then it's the big kick come the 15th of December. You know, there's still time for the players that don't feel they're in great form, but the ones that tend to have a lot more work to do is those guys that came through the final qualifiers, because obviously they're preparing for a qualifier and not a world championship. So yeah, they're the ones that will be putting in probably more work than most, but the majority of the players now, no doubt the ones that were in the Players Championships, they probably have today and tomorrow off, and then they'll start putting in the 3, 4, 5 hour sessions just to make sure they're absolutely on the top of their game by the time the worlds come around. Because as we know, as we've seen in the past, the opportunity is there. We've seen, you know, Rob Cross change his life with winning on his debut. So we've seen so many debuts or first time winners this year, young and old. You know, going from one end of the scale from Dimitri to 49-year-old Peter Wright winning the Worlds, and then Jose winning the Slam. So yeah, it's exciting times for the players, and a great opportunity to change some of their lives.
And before we let you go, just want to touch on a couple of things away from the PDC. We recently had the Grand Slam. All likelihood that was going to be the last one to have that PDC versus BDO tag. A lot of debate going on at the moment. WDF, MAD, UKDA, the PDC affiliate tours like the Asian Tour. If you were in charge, what would you do with those potential vacant spots next year in the Grand Slam?
I mean, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes with regards to the WDF. I mean, there was events ready to go. There was the TVs, the broadcasters in place. The prize money was in place. Sponsors were in place, and then lo and behold, COVID's come along. So I'm pretty sure by the time fingers crossed, February or March, the WDF will make a few announcements, and hopefully the WDF sanctioned events will take place. And from the whispers I hear, there will be, they want to run in alignment with the PDC. They want to follow a lot of their guidelines, a lot of their rules, and I'm sure that there will be a certain group of players that will come from that WDF ranking system. There won't be any major events played prior maybe they'll pick it from, I don't know, maybe they'll get 4 in, maybe they might get 8 in. I'm not quite sure what Matt Porter's and Barry's plans are with regards to that, but yeah, the WDF will certainly play a big role in amateur darts in 2021 and beyond. I'm fortunate enough to speak to somebody who's involved, and it's looking very positive. And all they've got to worry about is the World Masters, the World Cup, the Europe Cups, and the World Championship. The county darts is now a separate entity, and of course there's no more BDOs to worry about. So from what I've been told, it all looks very, very positive. And listen, the PDC have always come up with new innovative ideas, and I'm sure they understand the commercial value of having other players in it that people might not see a lot of. So yeah, I'm hopeful. I think it's always been different because of that. Because of the basis on having other players in it, not just the cream of the PDC. So I'm sure they'll want to keep that in place. But yeah, I wish all the best to the WDF in 2021 and beyond. But from what I can tell, everything's gonna fall into place for them.
Good to hear. Well, lastly, we know you're a big advocate of the ladies' game as well. Since we last spoke, we've seen the PDC have their first women's series. There's been a lot of positive feedback we've seen on that as well. What are your thoughts really on the ladies' game going forward? Would you like to see the PDC maybe expand that women's series next year, maybe do more weekends? What are your thoughts really on the ladies' game going forward?
Well, to be honest, I was really disappointed with the turnout. It was poorly attended, and the money on offer, was staggering. I don't think there's too many other events where there's tournaments put on for women where they can win that kind of prize money, and that's what frightens me is the lack of participation and the lack of entries. If the PDC are going to try and step in and create a tour, it can't be a tour where there's limited numbers turning up. I thought some of the standards of the darts throughout was outstanding. We know the problem is it's not the strength, it's the depth, it's the amount of top quality female players, and of course to become a TV spectacle, you're going to need some depth. But if the PDC are going out of their way to put events on and then they can't be bothered to turn up, I just can't see how it will go forward. But Barry loves sport. He's not one of these that worries about whether it's a male sport or a female sport. He just loves sport, but it's got to be commercially viable. He's not a charity. He's a very, very successful businessman for a reason. And as we know, he's fairly ruthless. So if they do go about putting on other events, I really hope they're much better supported than the last one, or it will be very short-lived.
Well, Chris, it's always a pleasure to get you on the show and have a catch-up on all things darts. So I appreciate you taking out the time and wish you all the best for the rest of 2020.
Absolute pleasure, and if I don't speak to you before, make sure you all have a great Christmas and your listeners.